Hey, well, welcome back. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about games tonight, game time, just some basic strategy. So thank you for tuning in. I'm just going to go over some basic game time stuff. I'm going to talk about some resources and equipment. I'm going to talk about game time roles and meaning leader roles and the different things we need to volunteers for. I'm going to talk about the game square, dividing teams. Maybe a good strategy for that. I'm going to talk about some basic game time, game square rules, and then maybe add some tips on just to help you have a good game time. So let's go and get started. Just if you have anything to add, we'd love to put in your comments. So put in your comments there, and we'd love to hear if you have anything to add. So let's go ahead and get started. So game time. If I travel around and as I talk to kids and I ask them, hey, what's your favorite thing about Awana? The overwhelming majority of them would talk to me about game time. And so we want to make sure game time is what brings the kids in and make sure you have a good, successful, fun game time. It's very important to have a good game time. So some clubs, it's kind of an afterthought, but just know that's what draws the kids in and keeps them coming back week after week. So I want you to think about that. Let me move the slide here. So these are some game books. These are in the catalog. And this is a Cubby game book. This is a Sparks game book. And then this is a TNT game book. Now, these are game books are for the most part for games that you would need a square. Not necessarily so much the Cubby, but the Sparks and TNT need a game square. So I have a, let's see, what did I do with it? I have a website, and on the website, I have a games for small spaces. So if you have a small church, or you don't have room for a game square, or all you have is a hall, or I have some ideas on there. These are downloadable game books. So go to missionary.awana.org, you see there, and then look for resources, and then you can download a game book for smaller spaces. So the game time role. So the first role for game time is the game director. He's the one in charge of the game time. He plans and directs the game time, controls the game, and then maintains the pace and discipline of game time. So for you game directors, I would suggest writing out a list of games every week and how many games you're going to play. 3, 4, depends on how big the games are or how involved they are. But be prepared. Just come in, don't roll in and what are we going to talk about tonight? So be prepared, have a list of 3 or 4 games that you're ready for, and you can go from there. So game director. The next game time role is the team leader. So the team leader, as we divide the kids up into teams, the team leader helps coordinate each team. So it helps them understand the rules, make sure they get in the right spots, coordinate different players. And so that team leader needs to be enthusiastic, needs to be an encourager, as you can see in his example there. And a good team leader goes a long way in having a good game time. The next person is a scorekeeper. Now, the scorekeeper could be a line leader, could be a team leader, could be the game director, or it could be a separate person who keeps score. So as we keep score during the game time, they tally the points. They maybe announce a score now and then, and they would assist in it where it's ever needed. So the scorekeepers, that's the next role. Here's some game equipment. You can buy, these are available in the catalog. There's a game kit, and it's got some balloons. This rope here is a tug of war rope, a 4-way tug. And I've had people will cut this thing in half to say, oh, we're going to tug of war, but it's made to, for those of you who don't know, it's made to be together. So you can play a 4-way tug. You can have 4 teams doing tug of war, and there's rules for that in the game book. The bean bags here, batons, bowling pins. Now, the other thing to think about too, depending on the size of your club, you can make that stuff if you want. You can use, I've seen in Amazon, they have cones. So you can use a cone. You could have, this is what's available in the catalog, but you can make all kinds of a game equipment. And if I maybe go on Pinterest and look at a game equipment, there's all kinds of things you can do. The bowling pins, you could use soda bottles, but you need to have some game equipment. The Awana game square. So this could be a game square, or a couple days ago, I went out and helped a ministry director put down a game rectangle. So depending on the size of your room, it doesn't have to be a square. It could be a rectangle. So the more running, the better. And so there's 4 sides to it. The circle, there's some different places to put pins. And I'm going to talk about the rules for that here in just a minute, but that's the game square. You don't have to have all these things in there. All you really need is a square, and you need a spot to put these pins here and the scoring pins in the middle. Okay, how to divide up teams. So you're going to need to, depending on how many kids you have, in Awana, we have 4 different colors: red, blue, green, yellow. So typically what I'll do is have the kids, when we start game time or start the club year, you have the kids line up against the wall and tallest to shortest. So tallest on one end and shortest on the other end. So they are all tallest to shortest. And then you start counting out or assigning colors to the kids. So for instance, you'd say, hey, you're red, you're blue, you're green, you're yellow. And then you're yellow, you're green, you're blue, you're red, you're blue. Go all the way down, all those kids. So, and the reason we do it that way is you're going to have, now if you look at here, the way they divide it up, you're going to have the first 4 kids. There's going to be a tall or more athletic or older kid on each team. You don't want to have, all the good athletes or all the tall kids or all the old kids on one team. So by dividing up teams this way, you can sort of equalize. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but a lot of the times it worked that way. So you start the year game time, hey, tallest to shortest, and then you say, go red team, you go line up on your line, blue team, and so on. So you can do this once for the year, once a quarter, twice a year, or every night, depending on, if you have the same kids coming every week, then it's not an issue. You can have the same teams. But if you have a different group of kids, then setting up different teams every night might be a good idea. But this just kind of depends on the makeup of the club. So you want to make sure that there's good competition. You see here, no team wins all the time. You don't want to, because then if one team's winning all the time, then there's other kids are discouraged, and then game time is not an attraction, it's a detraction. So make sure you keep the teams balanced, and so everybody's winning sometime. The game area, okay? So these players here, okay, these are players on the red team that they're lining up on the red line. So this triangle here is the red zone. This triangle here is the blue zone. This triangle is the green zone, and this one is the yellow zone. So you want to have the kids line up again on for instance, this red team, tallest to shortest, starting in this corner here. And the reason we do that is if this team is tallest to shortest and the yellow team's tallest to shortest and the green team and so on, when we play games, then you're going to say, hey, we're going to have a relay race with the first 3 players. Well, the first 3 might be the same age as this first 3, as this first 3, as this first 3. It's sort of a way to equalize the team. So where is the team leader? So now you see the team leader for this red team is standing here. What I recommend is the red team leader stands here, because here you can't see all the kids. If you're standing here and you can look this way, you can see all the kids and who's pushing and who's shoving and who's not doing what they're supposed to do. You can see all the kids. So then if this was where the blue team was, then this is where the blue team leader would stand, the team leader. This is the green team. They're going to stand here, tallest to shortest starting here. And then the green team leader is going to sign up in here or stand up there. So where's the team leader? Where's the starting lane, and where do most games end? So the starting lane for the red team is right here on this line. This is the starting line. This is the starting line for yellow team. This is the starting line for the green, and this is the starting line for blue. So all the teams will start on their starting line for most of the games. And now those rule books I told you about, they talk about all these different games that run around the circle and with a beanbag on your head and a relay with baton and skipping and taking your shoes off and all these different things. But all the games will start here. And then where do most games end? There's a scoring pin in the middle. So the teams will run around the circle. They come in, and they're going to come in and either knock over the scoring pin, grab the scoring pin, or however you designate that's the winning team who does it first. So they start here, they run around the circle, and they come around. There's going to be a pin right here, and they come around this pin, and they come in and score. Now, the other thing to think about, it doesn't show on here, is that you could have, a lot of clubs now are doing, they have scoring pins, because think about this, if all 4 of these players are running in to grab this scoring pin in the middle, which is the orange pin, and they're all bent over head first, they're all running in, could be a problem. So what some clubs will do is put the scoring pins right here on this intersection. So this would be the red scoring pin would be here, the blue scoring pin here, the green scoring pin, and then the yellow scoring pin. So they'd start here, run around the circle, and then come in and grab the pin or knock it over right here. So that way, nobody's running head first right into the middle. You don't have multiple players running head first right into the middle. So hope that makes sense. And let's see. So the game rules. So the game's player starts here, like I said, and their starting line. This is the red player would start here. They run around. They run around the circle. Okay, and then there's a pin here, and they run around the pin, and they come in for the scoring pin. So that's how they run. The yellow team starts on the scoring or the start line here, runs around the yellow pin, and then runs inside here. So that's how they run the race. So there's all these different games. So if you had just a relay, the player would start here and run around and then come in. And if they had 2 players, they'd run around, then the second player would run around and then come in. The second player would come in here. So now at the beginning of the year, let me just give you a little tip here is when especially for kids, new clubs, or for kids who have never played a one of games before on a circle, what I would suggest, you divide up the teams, have the tallest to shortest, and then you just ask for the tallest player, the first player, and you're going to have a one-person race. So you would start with this race because you want everybody to understand how the circle works. And if you had too much complexity in it at once, it's confusing. So you have one player, you say, you start here, you run around the circle, you run around your pin, and then you come in and knock over the scoring pin or knock it over here. So that's the first game. And then maybe you have the second player doing the same thing. So everybody understands this is how the circle works. And then maybe you'd want to say, okay, we're going to have a relay. So I want the next 2 players. You're going to have one here start, run around. He's going to hand the baton to the second person. They run around, and the second person comes in and score. And then you can start adding layers of complexity onto your game circle. But having those kids really understand the circle by just having one player run around, then and then your next game is just 2 players. You don't want to start with, hey, we're going to have a 5-person relay. That's the first game. It's going to create a lot of chaos, and kids aren't going to understand. So those are some game rules. Now there's sort of a misconception. We have this circle, and really the circle's for other games, but the rules are there's a red pin here, there's a yellow pin here, there's a green pin here, and there's a blue pin here. The rules say you have to run around the pins. So you have to run around the circle, you have to run around the pin. So they're demoing this. Now, if a red player started here and they ran in here, and then they ran around the yellow pin and they ran in here, they ran around the green pin and they ran in here, ran around the blue pin and then came in here and then ran around the red pin, would that disqualify them? No. Now, that's not the fastest route, but it doesn't disqualify them. They just have to run around the pins. They don't have to actually run around the circle. Matter of fact, when I helped put this game rectangle up, we'd have to make an oval, and the ministry director said, "Hey, let's not put the oval in. We can do a lot of games with just this, just the square or the rectangle. these cross lines and put the pins there. So that's something to think about too. So you don't just the rules. They don't need to run around the circle. They just need to run around the pins. Now let's see. Now does this disqualify? So the red player starts on their start line. They run around. You can see here they're running outside the circle, but they cut inside. The red pin would be here on the corner. So they run inside, and that would disqualify them, because if they knock over a pin or they run inside of a pin, then they're disqualified. So cutting inside a circle pin is not allowed. Neither is knocking one over. So that might be the fastest way around. But if they cut inside the bowling pin, then they disqualify. Okay, so excellence of an Awana game time. So number one is, these are just some tips. So number one is discipline. So you want to make sure you use the 5 count, the positive points, and because especially you use the discipline for the kids that are playing, for the kids that are not playing. What I always would do, kids would come in, we'd do a 5 count. I'll just give you another tip here. We do the 5 count, and then I would say, hey, we're going to play a game called Scramble. And when I say go, I want you to run around the square, do whatever you want, act crazy and goofy. And then when I start to count to 5, I want you to run back to your line and stand on your line, tallest to shortest, with your hands to your side. And the first team to get back to their line is the winning team. So you let them go, you let them run around, you count to 5, and then they run back to their line, and the first team to do that the quickest gets points. Now, the reason I do that is to make discipline a game. And so I might do that a second time, or maybe even a third time, or I might do it the first game of every club night, because I'm training them. Every time I count to 5, I want you to run back to your game and put your hands on your side, or run back to your line, put your hands on your side, and be totally silent. And then you're making discipline a game, and it's not like, hey, get back in your line, do this, do that. So use that. And then we'd play a game. Hey, we're going to play the baton relay. We'd play the baton relay. We'd say, hey, I want the first 2 players, and then they'd do a baton relay. I want the next 2 players, and then the next 2 players. Let's say there are 6 players on the team. So then the fun gets kind of ramped up. And then what I do, when I'm done with that game, when I start a new game, I would do the 5 count, and then everybody runs back. They stand in their line. They're quiet. I can explain the next game, and then we play the beanbag relay, and then 2 players or 3 players, they play their game. And then when I'm done with all the players, when I'm ready to go to a new game, I do the 5 count, because I want those kids hands to their side on their line, totally silent, so I can explain and it's quiet for the next game. So that's the first thing. Now the other thing, when you give positive points, the winning team gets positive points. Second place team can get positive points. Now you can give points. Let's say you've got 8 kids on the red line, and you've got 2 that are playing. Well, now you've got 6 kids that are standing there with nothing to do. So you could say, hey, the winning team is going to get 25 points, but if you're cheering your team, I'll give you an extra 10 points. So then you're giving the line leaders, the team leaders, sort of a tool to say, instead of saying, hey, Johnny, shut up, be quiet, we got to watch play the game. You're saying, hey, let's cheer our team so we can get more points. And now the whole team's red, blue, they're cheering their team. So you could come up with creative ways to give points to even participant players and non-participant players. You could give, hey, if you're cheering the other team, if you're, you could have a game where the kids that are playing, then if you're sitting on your line with your hands folded in your lap and you're totally silent, and then I'll give you points. So that way you're managing the game time, and that creates good discipline. And then again, the 3 count, the 5 count, use all those discipline things. Fast paced. So you want to keep game time moving. I would say this, remember this, if it takes longer to explain the game than it does to play the game, don't play the game. Kids want to play games, they don't want to hear instructions. So make sure, that's why when you start the game time or start the club year, you want to start with very simple games so they understand the circle. And we just play some very simple games. And then over time, when they understand the circle and understand what they're doing, you can add some complexity, and you're going to skip. The first player is going to skip, and the next player is going to run. Then you can see on this cartoon here. We're going to do a train, and you can add complexity, but you can only do that when the kids understand the game. So make sure the game time is very fast paced, so the kids are having fun. Excitement and noise. You want to make sure game time is excitement. That's why kids come to Awana, is they want to have fun and exciting time, and it's up to you to make that excitement. And the sound of excitement is kids yelling and having fun and cheering and so on. So it's game time is excitement and noisy. And then this last tip here is variety. So variety, what I mean by that is you want to have games that all the kids can win. So there's some athletic games, running games, thinking games, the balloon games. There's a variety of different games, and that you want to play so that every kid on that team, whatever their skill level is, or whatever their talents are, they can win. So then the last thing I just want to bring up is what do you do if you don't have a circle? So I gave you this. You can go on there, looking for games for small spaces. Those games don't have small spaces, or don't have circle games. You can play minute to win it games. You can play, I was talking to somebody just today, and there's a lot of kids who are playing games already. So what if you played, what if you had at game time, or now we're calling it interaction time, if you taught boys how to change the car oil, or taught boys and girls how to change the car oil, or some kids may want to learn how to bake, or some kids, other life skills that you can have at your interaction time, so that you can they can have fun. So you can come up with creative ways. You can do a craft. There's all kinds of things you can do to make that game time or interaction time fun and exciting. The kids want it. Or do circle games one week, different kind of games next week, dodgeball the next week, different things. Keep it, have variety, keep it fun, keep it exciting. And so, yeah, and then above all, just make it fun. Make game time fun, over the top, out of control, borderline out of control, fun. Use those discipline techniques to help maintain the level of discipline, but just you want to make sure it's fun, so the kids will like being there. So hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help. Or when I come visit your club, if you'd like me to do game time for you and lead that, I'd be happy to do that as well. So thanks a bunch. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.